What are your thoughts on the critiques about superhero films in general, like how they can set unrealistic beauty standards or because people have disengaged from real world issues? I mean, I don't really know what you're referring to. When I think of like the critiques of the superhero genre, I don't immediately go, well, this creates unrealistic beauty standards. I don't think that's the criticism that I would generally believe is targeted towards superhero movies and just the idea that it causes people to disengage from real world issues. That's like the point. There's escapist fantasies, escapist entertainment. Like the whole point is to disengage from real world issues. And that's not a bad thing. The premise of the question that these are the critiques in general, that's not what I would think of it as. I think there's some very weird stuff in the world of beauty standards and the treatment of men and women, where for a long time Hollywood obviously would use women, prop them up to just look attractive, and that is for the longest time before the internet existed, that we'd do an action movie and just there'd be some gratuitous shot of a naked lady in it because we didn't have the internet for that sort of thing. So you saw action movies and like in the movie Commando, you're watching Commando, and at one point in time, two guys are fighting, they throw a guy through a door, and just a naked lady stands up for a second. Like, this is what action movies were in the 80s. And you go, yeah, that's using a lady as a prop to excite men for a second there. Okay. And so some of that's bad. Okay. And so then people like, the idea that, you would need to transform your body for a role, that they would ask a woman to lose 10 pounds. This is outrageous. And they're just objectifying women and treating them like, and you go, wait a minute. Nobody is complaining about what Hemsworth,
I'm sexy and I know it,
Pratt, Evans, the Pine hasn't done a big transformation. Evans, all of our Chris's, no one's complaining about what they're having to do. Like, you see all these, like, it's like celebrated extensively that these dudes dramatically, to insane levels sometimes, transform their bodies to the degree that we all know that a high percentage of them are saucing to make it possible to do this, frying their livers, doing all whatever they got to do to look incredible, using diuretics to dehydrate themselves for their shirtless scenes where there's no water under their skin. It just looks like their skin is saran wrap pulled tight on this gigantic bulging muscle with a huge vein underneath it. No one's complaining about it. Hugh Jackman and no one's complaining about what these guys are doing.
I'm not a complainer.
It was like a really bold statement. Florence Pugh's like, I will never lose weight to star in a movie. There's a thin line here. I'm reading a book listening to a book right now on the history of Star Trek, and they're talking about how Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 from, or actually Terry Farrell, Dax from Deep Space Nine, talking about how the producer of the show, the head guy, would openly talk about the size of ladies' boobs and how they were too small and how they needed to get padded bras so that they'd look more attractive. And you go, come on, goodness, gross. And it was just commonplace in Hollywood. That's what it was. And we go from that, obvious chauvinism, treating women as objects that men can tell them how to fix themselves, to the flip side of hey, wait a minute, Florence Pugh. Come on now. If you're being paid $10, $20 million to star in a movie, we're not talking about being rail skin. We're talking about trying to look like a Black Widow. They're trying to look like you're actually a killer. Come on now. These aren't the same thing. They were over-correcting here. Getting into great shape to play a superhero makes sense. You're playing a fantasy. That's the whole point. So I don't know. There's a lot of different things. I think the danger of unrealistic beauty standards when it comes to superheroes is that none of these guys are being honest about what's going on. We haven't had any of these actors that have done a gigantic body transformation say, well, yeah, I mean, of course I was on steroids. I added 30 pounds of raw muscle and dropped 20 pounds of fat in 2 months. That's hard to do on all the sauce with a doctor checking my blood every day. None of them are being honest. And so that's where you create something unrealistic, because you're not telling people what really goes into it. You're not saying the real consequences. Like, yeah, I didn't sleep for 2 months because I was hopped up on tren. Like, you're being dishonest. But movie stars being attractive, I don't think that's a bad thing. That's like, not that everyone movies should be like hot, has to be, but that's the whole concept. They're supposed to look at them like, that's cool. So anyway, that's long and rambly answer, but I mean, I think disengage from real world issues. That's the point of movies. That's the point of them. It's not the only point, but like the idea that we just need to like sit here and like, oh, there's a war in the Middle East and Russia's invading Ukraine and there's still racism in the world and there's murder taking place and I can't afford why would it be bad to disengage from that for 2 hours to watch a story that's encouraging? I just don't see that as a bad thing.
Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.